Yeah, you know, I don't think they make them like this anymore, do they? I don't know. But yeah, you can just tell that this thing you know, it's a lot of honest wear. You know, you can tell just by, you know, just by looking at it, right? You know, all of the wear is pretty even, and you know, it's just, you know, you can tell it's all natural. It's just honest age and wear. Nice black, you know, with the staples. Right? You know, I decided I was just going to kind of leave it the way it is, you know, because it works fine the way it is. So didn't see a need to, like, I don't know, you know, polish it up or have it messed with. But yeah, so there you go. It's, anyway, speaking of P90s and the, you know, the back pickup being a P90, check this out. Oh, let's see, let's move this up a little. There we go. Okay, so yeah, you see, we've got P90. It's you know, this is it's a humbucker shaped, but internally it's a P90. You know, they're pretty good. It's pretty good. You know, it sounds fine. Sounds P90-ish enough for me. You know, these are the stock. I think they are. Yeah, yeah. Those are the stock pickups in there. And so yeah, this one is kind of cool. You know, because it's got the tune-knob situation going on. So you know, that was kind of cool. And this faux wood thing here, it kind of reminds me of remember the photo flame that Fender did back in the I think that was in the 90s, wasn't it? Anyway, yeah, imagine that, $350 for a Japanese made Fender, you know, and just so happened to have fake wood. But anyway, you know, this one, so yeah, then I plugged it in, and what do you know? The humbucker didn't work. I took it up to him and I said, hey, you know, I'd like to get this guitar, you know, and, you know, it was 99 bucks, you know, and like I said, you know, I've been, you know, I've worked retail, so you know, I didn't give him a hard time about it. I was just like, you know what, the bridge pickup isn't working, and I'm not too concerned about that. So, you know, I want to get this. It turned out that it wasn't available yet to be sold. You know, it was still under that time period where they have to keep stuff. And so I said, all right, well, I'll come back for it, and I'll pick it up. You know, and he said, okay, you know what? I'll give it to my tech, and you know, I'll see if he can fix it. You know, while you're waiting. I was like, all right, cool. You know, that's great. That's nice. You know, and I come back, and of course, you know, he's like, oh, the guy looked at it, couldn't fix it. Yeah, pickup was dead. And I was like, yeah, fine, you know. Paid the 99 bucks and, you know, and change, you know, tax, whatever. And brought it back, put on this pickup here, this P90 type pickup. And yeah, you know, I liked it. It's got the stamped steel saddles, you know, just standard like Strat type of tremolo system here. What else? Yeah, like the color, you know, just plain white pickguard and stuff in there. You know, it's pretty cool. Cool looking maple neck, you know, and feels nice to me. You know, I like it. Not too sticky, not too slippery. Yeah, so these guys are pretty, they can be pretty cool. But again, you know, it's just like with the Squire Bullet Stratocaster that I very often show off. You know, it's like you can't expect to just buy any Squire Bullet Strat and expect it to be as good as mine, right? Especially if you're buying it through the mail. That was, you know, that was just, oh, sorry about knocking the camera there, guys. That was just, you know, a lucky day at the factory. You know, when you're in the mode, you know, and you're always going to show, you have to expose, just like anything else, you know, if you're trying to find stuff, you know, out in the wild, you have to expose yourself, you know. And I tried doing a little video about buying, you know, cheap guitars. But, you know, the truth of it is that, you know, you have to already know what you like and what you think is good. You know, and you have to expose yourself to as many different you know, sources and examples of different guitars, so that, you know, where you can actually, you know, pick them up and test them out and stuff, you know, and find the one that really speaks to you. But you kind of have to already know stuff to get stuff that feels better than, you know, maybe the price would imply. So yeah, you know, you just never know. You just pick it up and you know, works for you. That's awesome. Okay, guys, it's time for a brand new segment. This is everybody's favorite topic, so I know you're gonna love it. It's called Let's Do Some Math. Guys, so what am I talking about when I say my strings are 9s or 10s or 11s? So, you know, when you take something, right, and you cut it in half, right? Right, so you got a half over here, and you got a half over here. What happens if you take something a length like this and you cut it into 4 pieces? And you got a quarters. That's what you got. And you can keep dividing up. And by the way, this is also where note values come from, right? So you can think of it that way too. But you see, this is the difference, right? The drummers, you know, famously only need to count up to 4, or only need to be able to count up to 4. But the truth is, guys, that as a drummer, you need to be able to count up to 8, and sometimes even 16. All right? So don't underestimate a drummer. He can count beyond 4, for sure. At least 16. Guitar players, you know, they need to count a little bit higher, you would think, right? But really, you know, they need to count up to like 7, maybe? No, like 13, right? They need to be able to count up to 13. Does it go any higher than that? I don't know. I don't think so. Never heard of anything higher than that, but I'm not sure. But yeah, at least 13, okay? So drummers actually, you know, need to count higher than guitar players if you really think technically, okay? So if you think of cutting things down, you know, taking a length of something and cutting it down into equal parts, so you can go further. You can break it down into, what did we do? 8? Did we go to 8? No, we didn't go to 8. But yeah, you can imagine that this one's broken up into 8, and then it says 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8, 1/8. Okay, so that would be 8, 1/8. All right, and then the next thing to think about here is then you go to 10. But once you break it up into 10, into 1/10ths, then it starts to get a little bit easier, because then you can start expressing that very easily with decimal points, right? So you take that length and you break it up into 10 pieces. 1/10th section of that length would be expressed like this: 0.1, 0.1. All right, 1/10th of this length. What happens if we chop this length up into 100 little equal-sized pieces? .01. And so this represents 1/100th. 0.01. So now we're down to hundredths. So imagine how small, especially if we're talking about an inch, that this length right here, all right, actual size, okay, actual size. So imagine breaking up this length here, this inch, into 100 equal pieces. Pretty small, right? So that 1/100th of that 1 inch, it's gonna be tiny. It's gonna be really small. You gotta break this up into 100 equal pieces. Man, that's tiny, right? Oh, we've gone even smaller now. What the heck? 0.001. So now we're taking this 1 inch length here and we've chopped this up into 1,000. I mean, I can't even, you can't, you know, I can barely imagine it, right? When I'm using my finger at this scale, right? Tiny little increments of length. But when you're talking about the width, the gauge of a guitar string, we're up in here. We're right. The differences between 9s and 10s and 11s, 8s, whatever, is 1,000th of an inch. A very common string gauge, and a good way to start with this as an example is okay. So when I say I'm playing 9s, is 9/1000ths of an inch thick. Okay? And we're talking specifically about the high E string when we talk about these. All right? The high E string, the littlest string, is 9 gauge, or 9/1000ths of an inch. This is a low E string. And so you can see it says 42. So the diameter is 0.042 inch, right? 0.042 inch diameter. So then you got 10s. What is that? 10. We call it 10s. This is what we're talking about when we say 10s. Okay, 0.01, and then we technically we don't need the other 0 because this is already telling us everything we need to know. It's actually 1/100th of an inch in diameter. Yeah, so we got 9s, which is actually 0.009. We got 10s, 0.010. And see here, 11s, 0.011. See, that's probably why, we use the 0 and we call it 10, right? Because then it just fits right in the line, right? Then, yeah, go to 12s, go into SRV land. We can go down into Gibbons land. On the turntable today, we have Rush, Hemispheres, Side B. Dude, I mean, what else is there to say, man? Just, dude, wow, whoa, really? Awesome. Yeah. Anyway, that's enough for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a nice day.